Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Now let's talk about the 5 pillars of Islam. Now for some people, this might be the first time you're hearing about the 5 pillars of Islam. But for others, they have forgotten what the 5 pillars of Islam are. Now let's remind ourselves what the 5 pillars of Islam are. Now imagine a building that is supported by 5 pillars. Now if you remove one of those pillars, you just put the whole building in a risk of collapsing. It's the same way, if you remove one of these 5 pillars of Islam, then you are putting yourself in risk of losing your Islam and losing your Iman. Now to explain the 5 pillars of Islam, I'm going to narrate a hadith which is narrated by Ibn Umar radiallahu anhu. He states that Bunya al-Islamu ala khamsin, that Islam is built upon 5 things. Shahadati an la ilaha illallah wa anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. Witnessing and testifying that there is no God but Allah, and that Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is his prophet and messenger. Wa iqam as-salah, fulfilling the 5 daily prayers. Wa ita az-zakah, and giving zakat. Wa hajji wa sawmi Ramadan, and performing the pilgrimage, the hajj, and fasting in the month of Ramadan. This hadith is muttafaqun alayh, which is narrated in Bukhari and Muslim. Now, as I mentioned, you can see in this hadith that these are the 5 pillars of Islam. Shahadati an la ilaha illallah wa anna Muhammadan Rasulullah, that testifying that Allah is the only one God that should be worshipped. There is no other being in this whole universe that is more worthy of being worshipped. And the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is his prophet and messenger. So we have to actually believe, we don't just say it from our mouths, we believe it in our hearts, that Allah is the only one that's worthy of worship. And that Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is his prophet and messenger, and we have to follow his every command. He is our example in this earth to follow. We have to read his hadith. Every single one of us has to read the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We have to learn the Quran. We have to read the Quran. We have to understand the Quran. And we have to live with that example that the Islam has set for us. Number 2, now there's 5 daily prayers that we have to pray. Fajr, Zuhr, Asr, Maghrib and Isha. Now there's 5 obligatory, compulsory prayers that we have to pray. Wa ita is zakat, and giving zakat. Now what is zakat? Zakat is all of your savings. All of your savings, your investments, and all the money that you have, which you're not going to spend in the near future, which does not get spent within the next day, the next week, the next month. All of the savings, you have to give 2.5% in cash in zakat. So zakat is only, zakat and hajj are 2 pillars of Islam that are monetary. Only if you have the money and you can afford it, then you give zakat. Only if you have the money and you can afford it, the hajj is fard on you and becomes compulsory on you. And the last thing is Sawm Ramadan, fasting in the month of Ramadan. So let's make a habit of practicing these 5 pillars of Islam and making it a great importance, and always putting it in our priority list, high up in the priority list. We should try to say Shahada at least once a day, regardless of when it is. We should at least try to say it once a day. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, from the heart, with ikhlas and sincerity. We should say Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh, thinking about its meaning and fulfilling its meaning. We should always be careful of our prayers and not try our best not to miss them. We should always give zakat when the time comes. Once a year we give zakat. It doesn't matter when it is. A lot of people give it in Ramadan, but it doesn't matter when it is. We should give zakat every year, once a year. 2.5% of your savings. We should fast every single day of the month of Ramadan. No excuses. Simple. No excuses. Doesn't matter if you got exam. Doesn't matter if you're going for a jog. It doesn't matter if you're going for a swim. Just don't go for a swim. And if you have the money, if you have the means, the health, then you go for hajj, inshallah. Soon as you can afford hajj, soon as your savings goes up above that mark and you can afford hajj, it's fard on you to go hajj. If you pass away having the cash to go hajj and you didn't go hajj, you'll get grabbed on the day of judgment. So let's make it a habit to make the 5 pillars of Islam in the high up in our priority list every single day of our life, and make it part of our lifestyle. Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
ربي والإسلام ديني ومحمدا رسول